All right, good evening, everybody. It's evening anyway here in Potomac, Maryland. Just a few minutes long update on the Eton Elite Satellite issue, which you've probably been seeing and hearing on various YouTube channels at this point. Where things stand at the moment is apparently that Eton is requesting that stock that was delivered to Universal Radio, ham radio outlet, and probably other sellers, that stock be returned. I haven't seen any confirmation of that from Eton itself, but it would make sense given the various problems that we know exist with the radio. A few points on those problems. These are gathered from acquaintances of mine in the hobby, and those who did receive one of the receivers and was purchased actually for that high price of $600. The one person who contacted me just the other day confirms that there was lockup of the radio when it was tuned to a high definition FM station. Muting on the receivers is terrible, and according to this acquaintance of mine, kills the option of manually band scanning with the main encoder knob. There was also FM breakthrough, which has been noted by others, both when using internal antennas and using an external antenna. One of my acquaintances noted passband tuning poorly implemented and introduces tones or distortion that should not be occurring if passband tuning was properly implemented on a receiver. There have been a number of people who have talked about problems with the display. And that is a big issue because if they can't get the display right in this radio, then they certainly shouldn't be charging $600 for it. They shouldn't be charging anything. They shouldn't even be selling them. So that's a major back to the drawing board issue. One of the persons noted, quote, display looking to be fading on the top right and bottom right corners, and a clear uncolored dot toward the center of the display. The issues with this receiver, as one other YouTube channel person has noted, have to make you wonder what Eton was thinking when it gave the final go-ahead to distribute these receivers to the purchasing public. I wrote a commentary some weeks ago, well before the shipments were the initial shipments were going out, in which I basically predicted just this kind of thing. Although I focused on the issue of frequency recalibration capability, which is something you find on Texan receivers, the PL330, the PL990X, the H501X, and the PL368. All have that ability to recalibrate. You may have seen on swling.com photos of the internal circuit boards of the Eton Elite Satellite. And on one of those photos, you can see that there is an access hole to the master oscillator. So why this is significant is that on the old Eton E1, which came out many years ago, there is access through the rear cabinet through a small hole, which is sometimes covered by one of the rubberized plastic bars on the back cover of the old E1 radios. But there was access to the master oscillator to a very sensitive potentiometer, sensitive adjustment capacitor that you could use with an adjustment alignment tool, very thin, or even a thin jeweler's screwdriver, although I wouldn't recommend using a metal tool. And you could adjust the calibration of the receiver. Now, of course, the old E1 radios at one point were said, at least I guess in later serial numbers, to have had a menu item included in the radio that you could press and actually recalibrate the radio that way. I'd never had any E1s that were serial numbers beyond 8,000, so I cannot confirm that that was the case. But why this is significant with the Eton Elite Satellite is that you have to ask the question, if there's no access hole on the back of the radio, why? Why didn't Eaton put in some kind of access to at least satisfy those of us who are obsessive, compulsive perfectionists to adjust the calibration if it was needed on the radio? Now, the response may be, well, they wouldn't want people messing around with the master oscillator on the circuit board, and I can understand that kind of a response. But still, to put that access hole behind the cabinet, not have a way to get it, and then forcing you to take the rear cabinet of this new radio off to gain access is a little ridiculous in my view. So what are we looking at? As others have noted, it's obvious Eton really screwed up here. As of the time I'm doing this video, I have not received one of the radios that I'm supposed to receive to take a look at, but I have to assume it has the same issues and problems that have been reported widely. If I do receive that radio, and if it's not taken back, if the FedEx shipment isn't reversed before it even gets to me, if it isn't, and I get it, I will post some of my thoughts, but they're going to be repeating probably what many people have already observed about the radio in various online commentaries. So that's it. Again, I have to just observe that, without wanting to be too hard on Eton, given the history of it actually coming out with the E1, which was made in conjunction with the R.L. Drake Company. It's a big difference with today's DSP radios. For Eton to assume that it could come out with a radio like this and not have it be perfect, and not have, at least attempt to have some of the features like recalibration that companies like Texan have put into very, very respectable radios like the 990 and the 501, is beyond me. It's a real puzzler. It's an embarrassment to the company. I hope they don't cancel the project completely, but it's going to be probably a long, long time before these shipments go back out, and Eton has to get it right the second time. Otherwise, it's potentially facing a difficult situation where you're going to have a lot of these radios, being junked or being sold at bargain basement prices with the problems that exist, and that's not something any company wants to have happen. So that's it for now. As of August 22nd, that's the information that I have on hand. Again, quoting some of the people that I know, the question is, even comparing to Sangean, for example, which came out with the 909X2, and the 909X2 is a very nice radio, but has some feature issues that I wouldn't want in a receiver that I'm using, such as auto bandwidth or lack of bandwidths in sideband. But even comparing with something like Sangean and the 909X2, all of these were visible and accessible to Eton and whatever engineers, wherever they are, who are involved in the design of the Eton Elite Satellite. All these were right there in the open, all these features, and why this company couldn't get it right with a major release like this is a big, big puzzle. All right, thanks a lot. I'll be back at another time with any updates that I may have for you. Bye-bye.